because I bought the mainstream media narrative that there wasn't a migrant crisis.
Really?
And yeah, I did believe it. I believe because, look, I was an idiot because, I mean, who do you trust in today's media landscape?
I know.
What's happening, everybody? Ana Kasparian was recently interviewed by Glenn Beck. Yes, this is real. It's not a Babylon Bee headline. Ana Kasparian acknowledged to Glenn Beck that she was manipulated and lied to by the mainstream media and the Democrat Party, which has significantly contributed to her disillusionment with the left. With that, let's watch Ana Kasparian expose the liberal media and their alliance with the Democrat Party. Let's go.
Move people with our tax dollars on airplanes to cities where you're changing everything in that city. Can we have that conversation first? And part of the problem was they were saying it's not happening. Well, yes, it is. And you're doing it behind our back in the middle of the night.
Well, it's interesting because, and look, I can definitely be honest about my own flaws and my own mistakes because I bought the mainstream media narrative that there wasn't a migrant crisis.
Really?
And yeah, I did believe it. I believe because, look, I was an idiot because, I mean, who do you trust in today's media landscape?
I know.
Right? There's a lot of liars out there.
Yeah,
and when it comes to mainstream media, the fact of the matter is they do play defense more and more for the Democratic Party. And that's an issue because there was a time when that didn't happen. And so I still believed in their good faith reporting, even though it turns out, a lot of these reports would omit really important details about what's really going on. And so it wasn't until Texas Governor Greg Abbott started busing or sending migrants to blue cities where that woke me up. That woke a lot of people up. And suddenly America realizes, oh, there is a migrant crisis.
Why did that wake you up?
Well, because all of a sudden you're seeing migrants sleeping on the floor in the police department in Chicago because they don't have shelter for these people, right? You're seeing, I love watching streams of city council meetings because that's how you understand what's really going on in these cities, right? These are real people who live there and they get their opportunity to speak.
Chicago's been an amazing thing to watch.
Wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch every city council meeting from Chicago because it's incredible.
Crazy. Yeah.
And for me, rather than relying on mainstream media reporting or anyone's reporting, to be quite honest with you, what I'll do is I'll go out of my way and I'll watch, the entirety of a government function, local government function. I talk.
Yeah, I remember when Greg Abbott, and I think Ron DeSantis too, started sending folks to sanctuary cities. And as cover for the Democrats, I think the media's spin was that they're trafficking people. They didn't want to focus on the fact that they couldn't handle 100 illegal immigrants, but these border towns have to handle millions of them, Sanctuary cities really sum up the Democrat Party in a lot of ways, if you think about it. They virtue signal about how everyone can come here because everyone deserves a chance. And then they want praise and credit for their high moral ground, which coincidentally is something you're hearing a lot in the media these days with the Hunter Biden pardon, because Joe Biden told us forever, I trust the justice system. I wouldn't pardon my son. It's just funny that we've been hearing that. And now Anna's giving another perfect example of the exact same thing. So as always, I think we're seeing a trend with the Democrats here. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Talk to real people and I get a sense of where hearts and minds really are. And so on election night, I wasn't surprised at all. I knew what was coming. I totally knew what was coming. I knew that Cook County was going to swing, I think it's about 8 percentage points toward Republicans. I knew LA County, and this is what I was surprised about. I did not expect Donald Trump to flip 10 counties in California from blue to red. But I guess I shouldn't have been surprised about that either, because when you look at the conditions that people are living in a Democrat-controlled state, well, yeah, you can understand why people are turning their backs on the Democratic Party. You can understand why people are frustrated at the corruption, at the loss of $24 billion that was allocated to help the homeless, when homelessness only exploded during that time, and that money is now unaccounted for. It was funneled to nonprofits whose executives get paid minimum $250,000 a year. And they have multiple executives who are making at least that or more. And you just see the waste and you see the real grift. And so for people out there who are concerned about the grifters, take a good hard look at the systemic grifting that's happening right now. It's disgusting.
It is, again, I think, the problem with the public-private partnership.
100%, yes.
Stop it. These NGOs, let them raise their own money. Let them, if they're doing good, they will prosper. You know, people
Agreed.
will find them. The government just funneling millions of dollars. It's a money laundering. Ukraine, I don't know where you stand in Ukraine.
Hey, if you like watching videos like these, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
But good God, man, that is a money laundering system, and millions are being affected, and hundreds of thousands are in a meat grinder right now. For what?
I mean, look, I think that the UK and the US made a big mistake in discouraging Volodymyr Zelensky from continuing or engaging in peace negotiations early on in that war.
Yeah.
So that's the strongest opinion I have about what has transpired in Ukraine. You know, my heart goes out to the Ukrainians. They're trying to defend themselves. You know, they were invaded wrongfully, obviously. But I feel that the way the United States has carried out its foreign policy, certainly, you know, starting in the Bush years, and it's only gotten worse from that, it's not really benefiting anybody. And it's certainly not benefiting the American people, which is another reason why I think you're noticing a bit of a shift or a realignment when it comes to our political parties. And look,
it's bizarre.
Trump came in and he just kind of like messed everything up in the Republican Party. And it's really weird to find myself in this place where you hear Republican voters take on this anti-war, you know, identity. And Democratic voters take on a more pro-war, like neoconservative type flavor.
Kamala speech at the convention it was like, what?
Yeah.
Who, are you Dick Cheney? What is that? It
Not
was
Dick
bizarre.
Cheney, but she was honored by his endorsement.
I know.
Which disgusted me,
So, but I think there's something to be said that I think with conservatives, the definition of conservative, what I believe is the right definition, is we look at things that are happening. What's working? Save that. Get that.
So Anna said she wasn't surprised at all that Trump won the election. And I believe her, because there's one difference between Ana Kasparian and every mainstream liberal pundit that you see, or right-wing, Fox News as well. She speaks to real people, working class Americans. Whether you like her or not, she deserves credit for that. Because if that's true, and I believe that she does, that's more than 99% of the effort that the mainstream liberal media puts into reaching out to real Americans. I mean, that's why they were all shocked at the outcome of the presidential election, right? Because by talking to only their friends in their liberal elite bubbles, of course they think Kamala is going to win. This even goes for someone like David Pakman. He predicted Kamala in a landslide. And I've been saying forever, what an idiot. How could anyone predict that? But now I have a response to my own question, and it's easy. He only talks to people in his circle, and he'll believe whatever his little group is telling him to. So I'm thinking it's likely that even David Pakman, an online news source, right, if you want to call him that, thinks he's so important that he can't waste his time talking to quote-unquote normal people. Or with him, it always could be the possibility, based on what we know about him, that he was just lying to his audience. And just one quick comment on California before we get back to the video. As liberal as California is, the vast majority of people there, again, are just trying to live their lives, take care of their families, be a part of their community, raise good kids. But when homelessness, taxes, regulation, etc., are so crazy out of control, there's only so far you can push people before they wake up and say, what the hell is going on here? So it seems like even folks in hyper-liberal California bubble are beginning to have their breaking point. And I've mentioned before that I lived in California, LA, San Diego, San Francisco, and I've always wondered, like, why does California do so poorly with homelessness when they take in more taxes than some countries, right? And Anna just gave me one answer there, which is the 24 billion or whatever, if I'm taking it at her word, that is unaccounted for. But then I had never really thought of that NGO point that they're both making, how it's funneled to these NGOs that, you know, it's like we always hear about a charity. Like if I give $1 to charity, how much of that dollar goes to the actual charity as opposed to like administrative services, right? But the last thing I'll say is, now, the one thing that I know they spent money on homelessness on while I was in California, and I thought it was a joke at first, and you guys probably know this by now, but I was there, I couldn't believe it. Programs they spent money on were needle exchanges and giving out like packaged crack pipes, so you're not like reusing crack pipes. So the message was, do all the drugs you want, but do them safely, okay? I don't think in my lifetime the words, at least illegal drugs and safe, go together all that well. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Part out of here because it's corrupt, it's garbage, it's old think, whatever. And progressive should be, we're more anxious to move forward. Let's go. The two of those things together is what provides the balance, you know?
Totally. You need that tension.
You need that. It's important. It's an eagle. Can't fly with just one wing. But when you look at what has happened to the conservatives, I started changing 2006. I mean, I was all for the war. I was all for
that.
Yeah, I was all for it because I believed that we could change things. I was dumb enough to believe that you can hand people freedom and they want it, or it will just work. It barely works here. You know what I mean? You have to earn it. You have to want it. And I was also naive enough to think that we were the good guys.
That's a great point. I mean, look at Iran. I mean, we orchestrated a coup in Iran, which is part of the reason why, you know, you have this theocratic, you know, situation that we're now fighting against.
Right.
Doing regime change is not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
The U.S. should not be in the business of engaging in regime change wars, period.
George, I don't know if you've read his farewell address. Okay. If we would just do that, we would have been fine. But the State Department for decades has been on this path of we're going to control everything. If you're a country that says we don't torture, but we'll ghost plane you to some place that will torture, you're a monster.
100%.
You're a monster.
100%. I can't believe I'm hearing you say this stuff.
I've said this for years. I've said it for years. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
But
is it not so refreshing to see two people that are so far apart ideologically come in and have a real conversation where they both admit mistakes they've made or when they were wrong? They agree and disagree on things. And when they disagree, they can say, agree to disagree, right? We lost that at some point. And I was asking myself, when did that happen? But I really would like to hear from you in the comments section. And my question is, can we get back to that? Do you think we can? And what needs to happen for us to be able to get back to having conversations where, again, we can agree to disagree? Anyway, that's it for this video. If you like watching Democrats or leftists that have finally woken up and speak logically about what's really going on in the world, then click on one of the two videos that just popped up on your screen. Otherwise, as always, it means so much to me that you watched today. The end.